Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the presentation. I'm going to talk about life of a Chrome release. This touches two halves. One is how do we do the Chrome releases from the browser app Chrome OS perspective. And there's a section of that which I'm going to devote to how we do the launches, which are also important. Uh, my apologies if some of this is not completely specific to external audience because there's some elements of this which might be more interested to the Google folks, but I just want to make sure that everybody gets a good view on how we do Chrome releases, what goes into the Chrome release, how do we get our launches into the Chrome release. That is the main focus of this release, of this presentation. Now, if you have any questions during this presentation, feel free to raise your hand or let the moderator know, and I will stop and I will address it. Or we can always wait and go back at the end of the presentation, and I can answer any additional questions. So let's get into the presentation here. Um, I'm going to look at four main topics here today. One is how do we do the Chrome release cycles? What goes into the release cycle? What are the channels and stuff like that? The next focus would be on the channels. What are the channels? How those channels exist? What are the criteria for those channels? How does the release gets landed in those channels? And then we switch gears and we go a little bit into the launch process. So how do we, as a Chrome product, how do we ensure that we're getting quality product out the door? What are the best practices we try to follow so we get the best product out to users at scale? So those are like the four main topics we want to cover today. So let me jump into the first half, which is our release cycle half. So here is a random game we always put together for this presentation, which is kind of funny. So we have what we call as five major milestone points in our release cycle. We call it as feature freeze. There is a time we cut the branch, and there is a time we promote a release to the beta channel, and then there's a time we cut fully almost close to release stable channel. We cut a thing called stable cut. And then there is the last piece, which is we send it to the release channel, the stable release channel. So the rhyming game in when we used to have this live audience, what we used to do is I would say feature freeze, the audience would say code in place. But we are doing a virtual session this time. So I'm just gonna say both, but feel free to rhyme in if you're having some fun. So feature freeze, that's when all the code is landed. So the assumption is the features are fully baked, you're almost good. The code is almost code complete, that's what we call it. So code in place. So feature freeze, code in place. After that, uh, the cycle goes for a while, and then we what we call it as a branch point. That's where we say, okay, we're going to take a side tour, a detour, and then we're going to take all those bits into a branch. That's when it gets more scrutinized. Any changes coming in will be a little bit more heavily scrutinized by the release managers. Uh, so we call that as branch. So branch, we have left the ranch because we are on our own road now. So it's no longer in the ranch. The next one is beta, beta promotion, beta in motion. Because beta is like our next to complete channel before the stable. So we want to make sure that we are really moving, chugging along, no more surprises. So that is our beta promotion, beta in motion. The next one is stable cut. Stable cut is when we put a stake in the ground and say, okay, this is where we're going to stop making changes into this particular branch and also for the particular milestone. And we're going to freeze it there, and then time is up. So that's it. No more for this release, no more for this milestone, guys. We are out of time. We have to push it out. So that is where stable cut, time is up. The last piece is stable release. We are going to give it out to the world and let's be peace. So stable release, please be peace. So those are like, if you want to remember what are the main things I should be worried about, feature freeze, branch, beta promotion, stable cut, stable release. Now, um, just a little bit of background on how these actually fly in the timeline scales, right? So Chrome works on a 6 week cycle. So we send updates to the world every 6 weeks. So if you are taking bits from the stable channel, that's where all our major customers, all the outside world takes them. You can expect an update every 6 weeks. If you go back to the calendar, there is all the channels, all the releases we push out. So you can see every 6 weeks we send a new Chrome update to the world. Now there are also lower channels. We call them as Canary, um, Dev, and Beta. So where you sometimes get daily updates, depending on the channel, or also weekly updates. So we'll come to that a little bit later. So what we call as an identifier in Chrome. So when I'm saying a stable release, what does goes out? We call it as a milestone. So this is where we say Chrome 84, Chrome 85, Chrome 86. Those are like the milestones we tag a release with. So the outside world knows, oh, I'm getting Chrome 85. I got Chrome 85 a couple of months ago. I got Chrome 86 last month. I'm going to get Chrome 87 this month. So everybody is always talking about the milestone number. Now, if a particular milestone is pushed out, that means it's on a stable channel. We are also stabilizing the next milestone. So if a milestone number M is on a stable channel, we are already internally preparing and prepping and stabilizing an M+1 on a branch. That's what I was telling you earlier, the branch. So we are always working on a branch to make sure the new features are also landing and we are preparing. And also, we are working on an M+2. It's like 2 milestones away from what is on the stable channel today. That's where all the new features are landing, and we are making sure code is complete. All those feature frees I was talking earlier, those are all coming together. So at any given time, there are like 3 milestones at work, an M, an M+1, and M+2. Now, if we go in Chrome release schedule, we have a presentation, a URL that everybody follows on Chromium Dash. That's where we put our calendar. So that tells you what is being sent out in the stable channel, what is coming next, and what is coming after. So at any given time, you get a snapshot of what are the 3 releases that are live so you can plan. A lot of customers plan accordingly. Oh, I'm getting 86 now. I'm on 86 now. I'm getting 87 in November, let's say. Oh, I'm getting 88 sometime early next year. So those are the things we put on the calendars. So we are pretty transparent to our customers. Moving on to the next slide. Here is where we are saying our 6 weeks release cycle, 3 continuously active release channels, stable, beta, and dev. And we also have a channel we call as Canary. So the names are pretty obvious. Canary is where a lot of our work goes in. That is the branch that I was telling you earlier that goes out every night. Dev and beta, we push out every week, and stable every 6 weeks. So I think we covered this slide. So let me jump on to a little bit more detail on what exactly these channels mean. Like what is a Canary versus dev versus beta versus stable. So if you can see, Canary is directly shipped from the trunk every night. So we have an automated build process that kicks out a Canary branch every night, and it's available to the outside world. But as you can expect, it's a daily cadence. So we try to keep it somewhat clean. The quality, as I put it there, it's a medium quality. It's not a production ready because a lot of code is coming in. We make sure it's not broken, but at the same time, there could be polishing that might need to happen. So we are doing an early testing. So we have a lot of people who subscribe to the Canary channel also. They want to get the early code and see what is happening. So they are also building on top of those features so they can also understand what changes they need to make. So it's a work in progress. A lot of polishing needs to happen in the Canary channel. So that is why it goes out every night. So something is broken last night, developers get a chance to fix it the next day and then push a release next night. So it's pretty fast moving channel. Now, the next channel that comes in is dev. So as we get closer to the milestone branch, we start to take a canary out, and then we want to pin it and say, okay, so here is a dev channel. And then we are going to take all the launches that are tagged for a particular canary, and then we're going to keep it to the side for a while. So anybody who wants to come in and use that channel, they understand it's a weekly cadence, so we will keep it for a week. So we don't tarnish the release. You have some predictability on what is in that release, and then you can continue to work on that particular release. So that's what we call it as dev. So we named it as dev because it's still the code in there and the features in there, they're not fully polished yet. That's why it's almost close to readiness, but it's not fully ready. So that's why we're calling the quality as medium. Now, the next channel, which is what we call as beta. So this is where between the dev and beta, I was talking earlier, branch. We have left the ranch. So there is a branch event that happens. So we will say, we are going to move away from the trunk, and then we are going to go into our own sidecar or side path. And that is the channel we are going to use for our milestone. So we would then cut from the tip of the trunk or the master, whatever you want to call it, and then we call this is the branch you're going to use for this particular milestone. So that is a branch event. And then we publicly announce that branch. So Chromium dev gets that notification. When we do the branch, it's also on the dashboard that we put it outside for external users, telling when the branch is going to happen. Why that is important is all the channels that are beta and stable, they are pulled from the branch. So once the branch event happens, we get a little bit more disciplined. Um, so all the changes that are coming into the branch, we put a little bit of higher bar. So that's where the release managers come in, they're more aggressive, and they will say, okay, whatever the changes going into that branch, they'll ask, why is it going? What is the reasoning? So we just want to make sure we are doing the right thing, because the focus now shifts from getting your features into stabilizing the milestone. So that's where the quality suddenly goes up. So when you go to the beta channel, when we start to do the beta promotion, beta in motion, I was telling earlier, the channel gets more disciplined and the quality immediately goes up to high. So you can expect the beta releases happen every week. They're pulled from that new branch we pulled out from the master, and then the quality of those beta releases are pretty high. Uh, the next one that's happening is the stable. This is where we will pull as we get to the stable launch. We would take the stable channel, and then we would then pull a release out of that. We would then promote that. So this is where we call it as the milestone release date. So what happens here, right? So at 6 weeks cadence, a stable is promoted to the outside world. This is the milestone number we're calling 86, 87, 88. That is the stable. And it ships from the branch that we already pulled. Um, we also do what we call as uh, refresh. So sometimes what happens is we put a stable out. There are some changes we wanted to get out. So instead of waiting for 6 weeks, we also refresh the stables. That's why you see like 1x/6 weeks and as needed. So if it's an important fix, a lot of people need that. We think it's important, like a security fix, we do a refresh/respin to the stable channel. But the point here is the quality of the stable channel is extremely high. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing for all the users of Chrome out there. So that is, in a snapshot, the 4 channels we have: Canary, Dev, Beta, Stable. Canary updated every night, Dev updated weekly, Beta updated weekly from the branch that is targeted to that particular milestone. Stable is once every 6 weeks from the branch, and then you can also expect respins as needed. So those are like the 4 channels with the different quality levels I have there. The next slide talks a little bit about how does the release breakdown happens. So as you can see, Chrome currently does updates every 6 weeks. So if you see on the top, you can see the milestone release. I called it as M earlier. So you can see the Canary channel leads always. So a milestone release M is now in Canary. Then we start pulling out dev releases from that particular. So we take one Canary, we pin it, and we call it as milestone dev release. So you can see that mdev there. And then what happens is at a particular, there's a feature freeze somewhere in there that comes in where we say, okay, so if you are reasonably confident this feature is ready for prime time, then we would have that feature freeze deadline internally so folks can be clear like what do they have a reasonable chance of making into the particular milestone. So we do some analysis of okay, what is your feature, where is it landing, how are you trending, how much of coverage you got, how is your testing, all the things, the rigorous discipline that goes into making sure we are not breaking a milestone release that is coming. So very close to the M+1 canary, you can see there is a branch event that is happening. That branch event is for the milestone release M. So that's where we call the branch event. So we pull a branch from the master, and then we now go into our channel and our path, the side road I was telling earlier, which is the milestone branch. Any changes that come into the particular branch needs to be approved. Some are manually approved by the release managers. I think the first couple of weeks, some can be auto-approved. But there is a lot of scrutiny in making sure that how we are approving those changes coming into the particular branch. At the same time, you can see when the branch event is happening, immediately the M+1 dev and M+1 canaries are also kicking out. So the night we do the branch, you can see the release numbers gets updated. We'll come to the numbering scheme quickly, but you can see the next release canary starts to get shipped out every night. And at the same, and once we go a little bit into the branch, we also have the beta promotion. Beta in motion happens. So we would say, oh, so now we are in the branch. Now we promote to a beta. And at the same time, we also promote to the dev for the next milestone. So you can see the M beta and the M+1 dev, they're happening together. So that's what happens as we go into the branch. Now, as the betas are heading, there will be a time when the next milestone is now hitting the feature freeze. The next milestone is hitting into the branch. So those cycles keep rotating. But as the M branch, the M milestone we were talking about earlier, that actually hits the stable. You can see at the extreme right, there's an M stable. There's a 6 weeks window where we promote the milestone release to stable channel. And there is also the M+1 release, which is now hitting beta. And there's an M+2 release, which is hitting the dev. So you can see at any given time, there are like three milestones happening in different stages. One is in dev, the M milestone. Then it moves to beta. The M+1 comes into dev. The M release goes to stable. M+1 goes to beta. M+2 goes to dev. So this is a cycle that keeps rotating. And then every 6 weeks, a stable goes out, and then the next channel is ready. The next release is getting ready to ship. So that's how we line up our releases. This is important because a lot of folks want to know how we do the releases. This gives a good view of how the releases are broken down. Now I'm going to move on to the next slide, which talks about numbering scheme. Now, how do we number our releases? What are the magic things we're trying to do here? If you see our Chromium blog, release blogs, we announce whenever we put a release out, whether it's for a dev or a beta or a stable, we say that dev channel is updated with 87.0.4280.23. What does that mean? So that means the 87 is the milestone number. So that is the major number that we always call a release externally also. So a lot of people call Chrome 86, Chrome 87, Chrome 85. So that number you can see is the first number, the 87. Now, the second number, so I'm going to show this is the number, right? So every 6 weeks, we would say this number gets promoted. So 87 now is 86 is the one which is out there in the stable channel today. Pretty soon that will be replaced, or we will promote 87 to the stable channel. So that is the one that gets updated every 6 weeks. Now, as we go down, the next number is a 0. We don't really use this number. So this is virtually, we call it irrelevant because it's there, but it's not being used. So you can expect this number to stay 0. I haven't seen, at least in my time here, I haven't seen other number apart from 0. But the number after that comes after is the very important number, because this is where the branch event I was talking earlier decides this particular number. So let me spend a couple of minutes here. Every night, Chrome branches, master of the Chrome code base branches. So if you can see here, 4,280, this is the branch number we are using for 87 release, right? So that means there were like 4,280 branches happened already. And we happen to pull the 4,280 branch as the branch we want to use for the milestone release 87. It is on the next day, there will be a 4,281, 82. So the branches keep continuing. It just so happens the one we pulled out to the side to use it for the particular milestone release is called the branch for the particular milestone. So there's a lot of, if you follow our public facing bugs, and a lot of times you see that we say, hey, there is a merge we want to do for a branch. This is a number that gets used quite a bit. A lot of folks say, can I merge to 4280? That means what they're saying is, I have a change I want to see in milestone release 87. So there is nothing called an 87 branch, but the 4280 is the branch that will carry the milestone release 87. So they want to merge their change to that particular branch. So we use this number quite a bit for release purposes. Um, Again, every release, we can always say there is a particular associated branch number. So if you can see, for example, 4240 is the branch we used for milestone release 86. 4183 is the branch we have used for milestone release 85. So those are pinned branches for a particular milestone. So we don't really change them. Once it's set, 4280 is forever going to be the branch for milestone release 87. The next one, I think that followed by the last number, which is the build number. So what does this mean? This tells you that within that branch also, we do builds every night. So there is a master that is happening every night. So we are branching, like I told earlier, there's 4280, 4281, 83. That keeps going. But there is also the 4280 branch that we pulled out for milestone release 87. We do daily builds on that, or sometimes more than daily, depending on the changes. So anytime we try to merge changes, or there is things we want to pull into that particular milestone, the branch is also building in parallel. So those are the numbers. You can see on the right side, the 23 is the build number for that particular branch. So if we are promoting, let's say, beta uh, every week in that particular branch, this number keeps changing because it's incrementing. So when we promote to the stable, this number will be also different. So as we promote as we spin the branch, this number keeps incrementing. So the 4280 number I used earlier slide is pinned for the milestone release 87, but the build number is the one that is changing as we are building every time. So at the end, what happens is every 6 weeks, long story short, you'll get a milestone number 87, the 0, which is not used, a branch number, which is pinned, that is 4280, let's say, and the build number that is incrementing. So put all of them together is our numbering system for a particular milestone. And this is where, yeah, sorry, okay, let me see. Yeah. Do I see a question here somewhere? Yeah. Awesome. We are on the Pacific time zone. So every night when I say the bills kick off, each channel has their own timing because we don't want to conflict with the channel bills. So the canary goes out late in the night. I believe it's 8 PST. And then the one that goes earlier is the beta, which goes around 5:30. And then there is a stable, which is more, it's built on demand. So we try to be at 5. So they're like a 5, 5:30, and 8. Those are like the three bills that go out at the Pacific time zone. And those are all also available in the Chromium dashboard, the slide I presented earlier that has the link for our dashboard. So you can see what is being triggered and what's happening. Thank you. I'm going to switch gears here. Like I said, the first half, I wanted to focus on the releases. Now I want to go back to the second half, which is about the launch process. So how do we make sure we are putting out a quality launch to the world every 6 weeks? So we know the releases are now out there. How do we ensure we are putting the right stuff in a particular release? So some of this material might be internal focused. Apologize for that. We're trying to make sure we're getting the right audience also here, but it applies to everybody. Because as you know, Chrome is a hugely complex product at scale, multiple geographies using that. So we want to make sure that we are doing the right things, making sure it's secure, stable, speed. So we just want to make sure we are, as we put releases out there, they're following some process internally, that we are all the new features, or when we are making changes to an existing feature, we are following the proper oversight on those features. So having said that, we have what we call as internally a launch process. Like every other company has some process to make sure we're doing the right things, but we tend to make sure we are not overwhelming also. So we want to make sure what are the things we want to call as features. We want to have an additional oversight. Clearly non-trivial user-facing feed changes, we want to have extra set of eyes on them. So those are the ones we want to take care and make sure we are doing the right thing for our users. Anything that functionality that has data changes or interactions with Google, we want to make sure they have an extra set of eyes, that we are not doing anything improper, and then we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing for our consumers. So that includes anything that could affect privacy, security, legal kind of work. We just want to make sure, respect the user, respect the opportunity. So make sure we are doing the right things when we are implementing those changes. The last one, I think, are clearly anything that is important for Google or it's risky for Google. We just want to make sure that there is a cross-functional review of features, just so that we are not putting something out there that might harm consumers and Google, and we're doing the right thing for our ecosystem. So this is something we follow across the board, but this particular slides, the next few slides I'm going to go, they're more designed for our browser application. Pretty sure web platform has got its own intent to implement cycles. I'm not going to go in there, but this is more designed for the browser app product. Now, what happens? So a quick overview. I don't want to go into the bowels of the process. I just want to give a high-level overview of what are the things that are happening in this particular process, right? So as with any new feature, developers, partners, everybody, we just try to collect what is the feature we are trying to build. So propose. How do you plan to build it? That's design. So there is an initial phase where there is a proposing happening, there's designing happening, there's a lot of work happening just to understand what are the contours of the feature, how we plan to develop, what are the use cases, critical user journeys, why is it useful, what use case is serving to solve. That kind of lot of initial work will happen. And then you also get a lot of strategy going around, okay, is this the right thing to do for our consumers? So all that work will be happening upfront, way upfront in the cycle. So that's why we call it as a feature development. But once it comes to a particular stage, everybody feels comfortable that, yep, this is the right thing to do. Then they would like to figure out, okay, which milestone we want to get this out. So that's where the release and the launch process are now intersecting. So let's assume there is a new feature we wanted to release, and we say 86 is the one we want to pick because there's a lot of timing issues also there. So we want to make sure 86 is the right release. So once that intention is there, then we want to make sure, okay, this is going in a particular release. Are we doing the right things? Did we engage the right folks? Is it getting the right cross-functional reviews? Like security has looked into this, legal has looked into this, there's no privacy implications. So more scrutiny will come into the launch itself. So you can see those color codes we have put there. In the green, feature development is ongoing, milestone targeting aligns, with the marketing go-to-market strategy, and that features are now close to completion. In the blue, you can say the intention to launch. We want to make sure this is the right thing, so it's done early on. So we're collecting the artifacts, what are needed for a successful launch. And then the yellow, there's like a scoping kickoff happening. We're doing cross-functional team reviews, uh, and then we're doing the right things when it comes to uh, you're building it, checking it, and verifying it to make sure things are done. And then as you go down, it gets more aligned to the branch, and then we're more aligned to the release. So make sure that it is landing. There's testing coverage happening. All the cross-functional teams are signing off. So in the end, it looks as though this is a pretty straightforward, simple process. Yep, you are planning on building a feature. You spoke to the right folks. You got it done. You are now putting it into a branch. You're shipping. Easy peasy, right? In reality, it's a bit more complicated because you have to make sure you're getting all these things together. Uh, and then in time. So that's where the process, having a process really helps. So we are putting the right folks in the room and doing the right conversations early on. Now, when you do proposing and designing features, what we tell is we tell our developers to reach out to your immediate TL or a PM manager for guidance, because we want to make sure ideas come bottom up. It's not always top down. So anybody who has a great idea that will improve Chrome, you can just go out. We're pretty open. It can come outside and inside out also. So we want to make sure we're doing the right things for our users. So you can chat to your TLPM, get it makes sense. They can socialize your ideas, make sure you're comfortable. Everybody makes sense, thinks it makes sense. Then you go into a little bit more written side of the world. So you just want to put your thoughts on a paper like a PRD, or put it on a UX Mocks if it's a user-facing change. Just get that review done. Make sure everybody understands what is this we're trying to do, and then then it goes to the next level of, okay, this is the use case you're trying to solve. Now we're trying to figure out how we're going to solve. So we have a design doc that we always write for features that are really important for us, and then we also go into the review process. There's also some design docs go externally, I think the platform side of the things. Internally, we also have a process that makes sure that we are getting the right set of eyes on these design docs. We also have launch bugs. These are the bugs we track for the launches, and also gives us a way to get some cross-functional reviews done. So those are the ones we use for tracking the launch. Okay, you are targeting for a milestone release. How are you trending? Did you get the approvals? Did you check these cross-functional reviews? So that actually helps us in moving the train for the particular milestone release. Now, if you so the thing, this is an interesting slide, is if you're not putting in the upfront effort and you're not talking to the teams, then you might be having challenges, because it's not really a bad time. It's just that you don't want to do fire drills. Because if you're putting something out there, let's say that might have security implications for Google or the Chrome users, then you want to make sure you're doing the thorough security reviews early on. So if you don't do that, then somebody can come in and say, hey, I don't think this is the right thing for our users. Let's go back to the drawing table. So you might be going backwards in the process. So just aligning and talking to the folks early on will make sure that they know what you're trying to do, and then they can give you the input early on, so you don't have to burn the midnight oil late in the process. So that's why this process is useful for a lot of our folks. So we are aligned and moving together. Now, as the feature is now looked on, everybody feels comfortable, you got the reviews done, you're in the development phase. Sometimes we tell folks to what we call it as a feature flags. Just make sure you're doing the right thing. Don't just put it out there yet. Put it behind a flag. Good development practices. And then make sure your code complete ahead of a feature freeze. Remember the release cycle 5 milestones we talked early on? Feature freeze is the one we ask our folks internally to make sure if you're getting a launch out into the world, make sure you're done, code complete by the feature freeze. That gives us confidence as release team gets out and they're looking at these launches. They feel that these are not half-baked code coming in. These are fully qualified code that is coming in at the point of feature freeze. So their job gets more easier as they promote a release through the different release milestones. Now, There's also different ways of rolling releases. You can do some control releases. You can just put it by default. Those are like the internals. But what I would like to say is we want to make sure sometimes when you're doing new launches, we want to get some data and make sure we are not regressing. So those are the things we always keep in mind, respecting the user, making sure we are putting well qualified, thought through changes in Chrome that will make the experience of using Chrome much better. So we're not regressing, but we are progressing. Once we get through the development metrics, development rollout, sorry, one thing we always look for is data driven, right? We want to make sure it's data driven. Any launch that's coming out the door, we want to make sure our developers are collecting some metrics in all the channels. We can understand that Canary channel is, like I told earlier, it's a medium quality channel compared to beta. Dev is also medium quality. Beta is high quality. Stable is extremely high quality. The quality of the channels is understandably different, and the subscribers who might subscribe to those channels might be different. But what we would like to do as we are developing new features is we are collecting data from all the channels as you are moving your feature across these channels. Why? Because we want to make sure that anything that is obvious, we can catch them early on, so we don't regress in the end. So those are the kind of tools and discipline we would like to have our developers to use as they are moving their features across the channels in as we move the milestone release also. The next one that we ask as part of the launch is, okay, now you have done you have checkmarked all the things we would like you to do, then just go ahead and start launching. Launch, as it sounds, is simple. There's also elements of launch we want to have done right. So if there's anything that your launch is public facing, might affect outside world, you want to check with your comms team to make sure that you are positioning it properly. And you want to talk to your customer team to make sure that is there anything that they can track. So we get the early feedback. So sometimes you want to track bugs or crash reports and any potential issues, just so that we have an avenue to address them. Um, we see a lot of times when we can say a release went out, there could be some issues. They come to us, the release team then gets into the gear. They pull all the teams together and see, okay, does this require us to do a respin? So that means sometimes we will refresh the stable channel also. So those are the things that will go once you launch, the job is not done. You want to make sure you're tracking it really closely after the launch happens. The last phase is land. So you launch. Now let's make sure it's landing and progressing, gliding away smoothly. So what we would do is after your feature has been deployed, we want to make sure that you land it. So what does that mean is we would like you to continue collecting metrics, make sure that it's not regressing over a period of time. Because as you can see, Chrome adoption takes time. Even though a milestone release goes out, um, it's not like we're giving the release out to 100% of your users on day one. We would go on a small waterfall kind of rollout, 10%, 25, 50, 100, whatever the scheme is. But it's obvious that even though we are pushing the release, a lot of consumers might not update Chrome right away. They take their own time to refresh their browsers versions on their computers. So any launch we put out there might not be getting the full footprint visibility. It takes few milestones, some time to get there. So we want to make sure we are checking the metrics over a period of milestones to make sure we haven't regressed after a period of time. So also any last pending bugs, flags, like I mentioned earlier, those are the things, configuration. So we want to make sure that anything that you have put in as you are promoting your launch, if it's no longer needed, we would like you to take them out so Chrome is not bloated. It's staying clean and nimble as you are done with the feature and it's out there used by the folks. So that is the last piece. That is the landing piece that ends kind of the story where your launch is through the door used and it's it's out there forever for everybody. So what does it mean? So these are the launch process I have mentioned so far. I just wanted to be clear that that is for the browser app launches. So as a Chrome, as a browser, we follow the process. Uh, just want to call out this that all the web platform features, they're designed in public, they follow a different process. It's public facing, launching Chromium or Blink, launching features has a lot of information. So those are out there. So it's pretty public. This is somewhat internal, so but it still has the same discipline and the same rigor as we move our Chrome launches into the world. So, having said that, that would take us to happy launches. So, if you're following those cross functional reviews, putting the effort early on, talking to the right folks, getting the reviews done, doing the proper analysis, collecting the metrics, tying to the proper milestones, getting your code complete by feature freeze, and then following, polishing more and more as the milestone goes through the Canary Dev beta stable channels, then you are going to get happy launches. And once you get happy launches, you're following up with your launch and then getting more data as the launch stays in the world for a few more cycles or for a few more milestones. Then you get happy landings. So that's what we want to do. Make sure you launch properly and then you also land properly. That's our intent here. So that was the gist of my talk today. Uh, I might pause here, see if there are any open questions. Uh, Again, thanks for the time. And then I will hang around here, but I'll also be available in the hallway track. If you don't have any questions immediately, I'm there to answer any other questions in the hallway track. Okay, sure. I can, like I said, we don't need to wait here. We can always go. I can always go to the hallway track and take questions there. Thanks again. Again, my name is Lakshmana Pamarthi. I'm on the TPM on the Chrome team. So this has been a great privilege for me to come here and give this talk to all the Chromium 2020 attendees. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, or I'll be seeing some of you in the hallway track. Thank you.